Hey Spartans, welcome back to Spartan Stand. I'm Brian Chontosh, and today I want to talk to you about your resume. I think your resume is just another word for yesterday. It's another way of saying, I'm static, I'm done, I'm happy with the past. I get it. I twist things to be a little bit more extreme in my head but it helps me, and I understand the value of a resume and what it is, but if you are living just on your resume, you're nothing more than that high school football star that's 50 years old at the bar drinking, saying, yeah, I was the homecoming king and I was the starting quarterback. But it's like, well, what are you doing now? What have you done for the last 30 years? And so I try to live my life that I'm writing my resume all the time. And that translates into why I do hard things. I want to build myself up all the time. I don't want to stop here and then just advertise, hey, this is what I've done. This is what I've done. Here I am. Because if that's all I talk about, that's all I'll ever be. I don't want to talk about, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and always talk in the future. I want to just do it and let that future be the now and write my story right now. And I was just talking to a buddy about some of the things I've done, and he says, hey, Tosh, how come you never really talk about the things that you've done? How come you never really talk about these races and the ego challenges? And, unless we force you to give us an example, and then you give us an example, but I follow you on social media. I know that you're doing this. I hear stories from you or from other people that are saying Tosh is doing this, but I never really hear you say it. And it's because, it doesn't matter. It's old news already. What I've done is old news. It's mildly interesting only to how it sets me up for success to do what I want to do now. And if you're watching me, I want to live every single day doing something a little bit more. And it got me thinking, well, because it sounds intimidating, right? If I were to tell you that, hey, I rode the Continental Divide and we did it, and we were planned for 60 days and we did it in 27, and we just got going, and people in the beginning were saying, well, how do you train for that? I'm like, train for? How do you train for 2,700 miles? Isn't the first 100 miles training for the second 100 miles, and then the second 100 miles and the third and the fourth training for the 800 and 900 and 1,000? And if I just constantly just keep going, I'm not going to set limitations on myself. I'm not going to have to live to what I've done. I'm training for an event, and now I'm going to limit the performance of my event based on my training. And I know people can rip that apart, and it's okay, but where I take it is just live. Just keep doing. Just push yourself and keep going harder. We started out riding on the Divide, and we were doing 80 miles a day, and we got better, and then it was 90 miles a day, and then it was 120 miles a day, and next thing you know, it's 27 days later, and we're in Mexico, and we did it. And what's cool is along the way, we started ripping gear out because we got more comfortable with what we were doing. We started mailing stuff home, started throwing stuff away. At one point, I didn't even take a sleeping bag. I threw away the bivy sack that I was using, because I found a piece of tarp on the ground, a little blue piece of tarp, and I cut it in half because all I needed to do was roll up in it once. And I just started sleeping in that because I was okay. But I was getting tougher and harder and harder. And the only reason I'm sharing this is because I had a client who I work with, an amazing dude, and we pulled up to the side of a Wawa, and I said, hey, let's just take an hour nap. We need a quick nap, reset. He's like, well, where are we sleeping? Well, we're right there on the ground. Well, what do you mean? Like, well, we'll just lay down, put your bike there, put your leg over the bike. Nobody's gonna take it. You fall asleep, we'll wake up when we wake up. You'll get cold, you'll shiver, you'll wake up, and we'll start riding again. He's like, I've never done that. All I've ever done was, when we had to stop, pull out a sleeping bag and go and get into this place. I'm like, yeah, well, that's your resume. Why don't you write a new chapter? Don't worry about it. It'll be okay. Today we'll sleep on the side of the grass of the Wawa, and then tomorrow we'll up it up a notch, and then the next day, and let's just not live our lives constrained to what we've done. And so, while I understand what the purpose of a resume is to advertise or communicate your skills and talents and abilities and experience to somebody else, I like to think of my resume as just another word for yesterday. I want to live right now, do what I'm doing, take a chance, go forward, make it just a little bit harder every time. It doesn't have to be giant steps. And next thing you know, you're looking back on 7, 8 years and trying to figure out, how did I get so tough? how did I get so hard? How did I get so extreme? And you don't even think that you are. You just think that you're a normal person every day that just pushes themselves a little bit more. Stop living your resume, start living today. I'm Brian Chontosh on Spartan Stand, hoping that this maybe excites you or opens up a new way of thinking for yourself. I'm part of the Spartan Up podcast series where we bring you professionals from all walks of life, health, fitness, mind. We do interviews with amazing people in the world, and all we're trying to do is just share what works for us. And if you can find a little bit of piece of that or interpret it in your own way, hopefully it makes you a better person. Good luck.